Okay, I want you to try something with me for a second.
Yeah.
It might feel a little uncomfortable, but just stick with me. It's actually the core metaphor of the book we're covering today. Just imagine holding your breath, not the fun kind, like before you jump into a pool, but that feeling when you're underwater, you've been down there for a little bit, and your lungs just start to burn.
Oh, yeah. It's a very specific physical sensation. The panic doesn't really start in your head. It's in your gut.
Exactly. Your chest gets tight. You're trying to conserve oxygen because you honestly have no idea when you're going to get that next clear breath.
It's stressful just thinking about it.
It is.
And that visceral feeling is exactly where Steph Wynn starts in her new book, Being Underwater. Life in a World That Won't Let You Breathe. It just came out this year, 2026, and it's making some serious waves.
Pun intended there.
Maybe a little, but the book isn't really about swimming. It's about why modern life specifically right now in 2026 feels the way it does. Wynn argues that this sensation, this holding your breath, it isn't just anxiety or stress. It's the defining economic and psychological condition of our time.
Which is a heavy way to start a deep dive.
Yeah.
But I think it resonates. We've talked about inflation. We've talked about the job market, tech. But this book feels like it's trying to tie all of that into a single feeling. The squeeze.
That's the term, the squeeze. And our mission today is really to figure out why the cost of living has sort of morphed into what Wynn calls a punishment. Why does it feel like everyone is doing this quiet calculation in the back of their mind just to survive?
Okay, let's jump right into that quiet calculation, because when I read that phrase in the intro, I actually had to put the book down for a second. I just felt seen. But am I understanding it the way Wynn means it? Is this just, budgeting?
No, and that's the critical distinction. Budgeting is math. The quiet calculation is physiology. Yeah. Wynn argues that when the cost of essentials, so housing, food, energy, when that crosses a certain threshold compared to wages, your nervous system actually shifts gears. You stop living and you start enduring.
So it's basically survival mode.
It's chronic survival mode. It's that background process running in your brain that's constantly saying, if the car breaks down, I have exactly 3 weeks before I'm homeless.
Or if I get sick, I lose my contract.
Exactly. It's the constant scanning for threats. And Wynn points out, this used to be the reality for the very poor. But in 2026, it has climbed the ladder. It's a middle-class reality now.
And usually the narrative we get is, well, it's pretty harsh, right? It's stop buying lattes or get a better side hustle.
Right. The personal responsibility argument. And Wynn doesn't totally dismiss personal agency, but the book's point is that we're basically being gaslit. The system tells you if you were just more disciplined, you wouldn't be drowning.
But the data shows the floor has physically moved.
The floor has moved. That's a great way to put it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. 10, maybe 15 years ago, if you fell off the economic ladder, say you lost your job, there were rungs on the way down.
Okay.
Cheaper apartments, bridge jobs you could just walk into, a social safety net that, it had holes, but it existed. Wynn argues those rungs are just gone. Now, if you slip, you fall all the way.
And this brings us to the whole AI conversation. And I have to be the devil's advocate here for a second.
Please.
I mean, we talk about AI constantly. We know it's changing things. But people have been screaming about robots taking our jobs since the assembly line. Why does Wynn think this time is different? Why is 2026 the breaking point?
That is the right question to ask. And the difference, according to Wynn, is the type of displacement.
Okay.
In the past, technology usually replaced dangerous or, repetitive physical labor. It hurt specific sectors, but it often created new admin or support roles.
Right, so the factory closes, but the logistics center opens.
Exactly. But AI in 2026, Wynn argues, is an efficiency engine designed to evaporate the entry-level white-collar job.
The vanishing starter job.
That's the one. Think about the roles that used to be a safety net for college grads or people changing careers. Admin assistant, junior copywriter, data entry, basic graphic design.
The jobs where you learn how an office even works.
And crucially, the jobs where you get health insurance and a consistent paycheck while you figure things out, those jobs are gone. They're not coming back. They're being handled by software that costs $50 a month and doesn't need sick days.
So the ladder is missing is bottom 5 rungs.
Precisely. And the scary part isn't just that the jobs are gone. It's the mechanism of how companies are hiring or not hiring for what's left. Wynn calls it the black hole application process.
Oh man, this part. I have friends going through this right now. You send a resume into the void and hear nothing.
It's worse than hearing nothing. You're being rejected by a bot before a human eye ever sees your name. Wynn calls it a dehumanization loop. You aren't applying to a person. You're submitting data to an algorithm.
And if your resume doesn't have the exact right keywords?
You're just discarded. And that creates this profound sense of powerlessness. That's a huge theme in the book. It's not just that people are broke, it's that they've lost agency. You can't hustle your way out of it because there's no human on the other side to hustle to.
Which leads to what the book calls the breaking point. But again, Wynn zigs where I expected her to zag. I kept waiting for a story about like a riot or a crash. But the book focuses on what it calls quiet emergencies.
Yeah, this was one of the most compelling chapters for me. We think of breaking points as these huge explosions. But Wynn says the breaking point in 2026 is usually silent. It happens in your kitchen, staring at your phone.
The Amazon moment.
The Amazon moment.
Can we walk through an example of that? Because the name sounds almost convenient, but in the book, it's a horror story.
It's a very modern horror story. So here's the scenario she paints. You're stressed, money is tight, you need to do something simple, like transfer funds or verify your identity to get into a gig work app. You open the app, it asks for a face scan.
Okay, standard stuff.
You hold up the phone, the lighting's bad, fails, try again, fails, action required. You try to find a support number, but there isn't one, just a chatbot loop. And suddenly, that grayed out button on the screen isn't just a tech glitch, it's standing between you and your rent money.
And your heart rate just spikes.
You go into full fight or flight over a button. Wynn says this is the specific texture of modern rage. It's this action-required fatigue. We are constantly being asked to prove we're human, to verify our existence just to access our own lives. And if the machine says no, there's no appeal.
That feeling of just shouting at a screen, I think everyone's felt that. But Wynn takes it a step further. It's not just about bad customer service, it's about control. This brings us to the soft cage.
The soft cage. Yeah, it's a chilling term.
When I hear cage, I think bars, I think prison, but this is invisible.
It's administrative, it's digital. Wynn argues that we have undergone this massive shift from being citizens to being users.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the difference?
A citizen has rights. You're innocent until proven guilty. A user has permissions, and permissions can be revoked at any time for, violating terms of service.
Right.
The soft cage is the reality where if you're labeled non-compliant, maybe you missed a payment, maybe your digital ID expired, you don't get a trial, you just get pause.
It's just get locked out.
The money doesn't move, the smart lock on your apartment doesn't open, the subway pass won't scan. You're physically free, but you're functionally locked out of society. Wynn calls it containment through access.
That's terrifying. It's like a credit score, but for absolutely everything.
And it creates this culture of extreme compliance. Everyone is terrified of that account suspended notification.
Yeah.
So we keep our heads down. We don't rock the boat. We stay in the cage because outside of it, you effectively don't exist.
Well, you'd think, and I'm just thinking out loud here, that if everyone's feeling this squeeze, if everyone's terrified of the soft cage, we'd be banding together.
Right.
We'd be helping each other.
But the book says the opposite is happening.
Yeah.
And this is the part that might make some listeners uncomfortable, but it's crucial. Wynn talks about empathy fatigue.
We're just too tired to care.
It's more than tiredness, it's resource guarding. When you feel like you're drowning, you don't look at the person drowning next to you and think, I should save them. You think, don't grab me, you'll pull me down too.
The book talks about homeowners and small business owners here, and I like that Wynn didn't paint them as cartoon villains.
No, and that's so important. It's easy to look at a homeowner voting against a shelter and say, what a monster. Wynn's point is, look closer. That homeowner is probably leveraged to the hilt. They're terrified that one shift in property values puts them underwater. They aren't acting out of malice. They're acting out of pure fear.
So when they say clean up the streets, what they're really saying is, I am barely hanging on, and seeing this reminds me how close I am to the edge.
Exactly. Visible poverty becomes a mirror they can't stand to look at, so the question shifts. We stop asking, how do we help these people? And we start asking, where will they go?
Yeah.
Just not here.
Which leads to the temporary trap. The book had this whole section on the word temporary being like the most dangerous word in our language right now?
Because temporary is how we justify the unjustifiable. We build temporary shelters in industrial zones. We create temporary specialized districts. Wynne uses the 2028 LA Olympics as a case study.
Oh, right, the Catalyst event.
Cities love these things. They use terms like beautification and public safety, and they sweep people into these temporary zones to clean up the city's image. But Wynn's research shows that these zones almost always harden into permanence. They become containment facilities.
So we aren't solving poverty, we're just managing it, moving it out of sight.
Out of the line of sight of the people who are still inside the soft cage.
So we've got the economic squeeze, we've got the digital cage. What is this doing to our brains? I mean, besides the anxiety, the book has a chapter called The Scroll. And I have to admit, I felt a little attacked.
You and me both.
I was up until 2 a.m. last night, just thumbing through videos, not even watching them, just scrolling. Wynne says, this isn't just me being lazy.
No. Wynne reframes this entirely. We usually call it addiction or bad habits. Wynne calls it sedation.
Sedation from what?
From the stuckness. Remember, the book talks about forced free time, unemployment, underemployment. If you're waiting for that job application to come back from the black hole, that waiting period isn't leisure. You're not relaxing. You're in a pressure cooker.
You can't exactly go chill at the beach when you don't know if you can make rent.
Exactly. So the scroll creates this localized numbness. It shuts off the quiet calculation for a few seconds at a time. It's a drug to manage the powerlessness.
But then,
and here's the kicker, society points at you and says, see, you're on your phone all day, that's why you're broke.
the finger-pointing loop.
It's a perfect trap. The system creates the anxiety, the device provides the sedation, and then the system blames you for taking the sedative.
And it's not just the people at the bottom feeling this fear. The book says this paranoia climbs all the way up.
That's the ambient fear. Wynne interviewed people in affluent, gated communities. They're installing more cameras, more biometric locks, higher walls. But the data shows the more security they install, the less safe they feel.
Because the wall reminds you there's something outside to be afraid of.
Exactly. The gate doesn't make the fear go away. It just locks the fear in there with you. Trust just erodes. Everyone becomes a potential threat.
Okay, so we have painted a fairly bleak picture here. A world of pressure, containment, digital anxiety. But the book doesn't end there. The final chapter is, well, it's controversial. It's titled, Let Them Go.
Yeah. We need to spend some time here, because this is the part generating the most debate.
When I first read that title, I thought, is this a grim solution? Is this about ending it?
No, and Wynne is extremely clear about that. It's not about suicide. It's not about violence. It's about a humane off-ramp.
Okay, what does that mean? An off-ramp to where?
The premise is this. We've built an economy that requires 100% participation 100% of the time at max efficiency. If you can't keep up, for any reason, burnout, health, age, the system tries to crush you back into compliance. Wynne asks, what if we just let people stop?
Stop working.
Stop participating in the hustle. Wynne proposes a right to rest, a voluntary status where you can exist without being measured by your economic output. Basically, a right to disappear from the market without disappearing from life.
Play that out for me, because the skeptic in me hears that and immediately goes, okay, sounds nice, but who pays for it? If everyone takes the off-ramp, who's driving the trucks?
And that's the big question. Wynne argues that we're already paying for it, just in the most expensive and cruel way possible. We pay for emergency rooms, police interventions, prisons, the cleanups of those temporary zones. Wynne suggests that providing a basic, humble existence, a sanctuary where you're allowed to just be, might actually be cheaper than our current system of policing poverty.
So it's almost like a monastery concept.
Yeah.
A sanctuary.
Sanctuary is a good word. A place where the cost of living is decoupled from the punishment of inflation. The argument is that right now, the only way out of the pressure is seen as failure or death. People break because they feel trapped.
They feel like they can't stop swimming or they'll drown.
Right. And Wynne is saying, let's build a raft. Let's say it's okay. You can climb out of the water. You don't get the yacht. You don't get the luxury, but you get to breathe.
It's a radical shift in values. It's saying productivity isn't the rent you pay for existing.
And that is the philosophical core of the book.
Yeah.
Wynne believes that if we don't provide a peaceful, voluntary exit from the pressure away for people to say, I surrender, without losing their humanity, then the pressure will eventually cause the tank to explode.
Meaning violence, unrest.
Exactly. The off-ramp isn't charity, it's a safety valve for civilization.
That's a lot to process. The idea that we could just allow people to opt out of the game.
It challenges everything we're taught about meritocracy and worth.
So let's zoom out here. We started with that physical feeling of holding your breath, the squeeze.
We move through the soft cage, where we're controlled by digital permissions and that fear of losing access. We looked at how we're containing the problem instead of solving it.
And finally, this massive question of whether we're brave enough to build an off-ramp.
For the listener, our learner tuning in today, I think the takeaway is this. If you feel that tightness in your chest, if you feel like the world is demanding more admin and compliance than you have the energy for, you're not crazy. You aren't broken.
The water really is rising.
It is. The system is tightening. And realizing that the anxiety is a structural response, not a personal failing, that's the first step to getting some agency back.
And maybe it helps us look at the people around us differently, too. The person doom scrolling, the person struggling with the checkout machine. We're all in the same water.
Which brings us to the final provocation from the source. Wynne leaves us with this thought. We are currently building a future of cages, digital, physical, administrative, all in the name of safety and efficiency. If we don't build a humane off-ramp on purpose, what kind of society do we become by default?
Are we a society that helps people swim, or just one that watches them drown?
That's the choice.
Right.
And we're making it every single day.
Something to mull over. Take a deep breath, everyone. Seriously, do it right now. Keep breathing. Thanks for diving in with us.